Hey, it's Matt Pinfield. It's KLOS New and Approved, and I am here with Roger Earl and Scott Holt of the band Foghat. Guys, welcome to the show. It is so great to see you.
It's nice to be here, Matt.
Yeah, that's right.
Yes,
Yeah.
you know, you're pretty famous, right?
Well, I know that you are, and I've been a fan since I was a kid. You know, the first Foghat album I bought was Rock and Roll Outlaws when I was a kid, and I love that record.
It was a good record.
Yeah, it's got Blue Spruce Woman on it, man, which has this killer, opening riff that I've always loved, and so many great songs. And then I went back and bought some of the older ones, because I think when that was probably 74 when that album came out.
Actually, the first one was 73. That was
Right.
our first one. The
Then
brilliant
Energized, right?
Dave Edmonds produced.
Hey, tell me about that. So I know that you were, of course, in Savoy Brown for a while, which I knew about because my older brother had a Raw Sienna album. You know what I mean? So it'd be playing in the house.
There.
Yeah, absolutely, right? You and Dave, right? So you and
right.
Dave were on that, and so. It's that record was playing around the house. But I found the Foghat record. I looked at it. It looked cool. I said, Rock and Roll Outlaws, I'm going to buy this. And, New York radio at that period of time, I probably had played. I hear a little bit off of Energized, and I Just Want to Make Love to You. But then all of a sudden I started digging in, and was a fan straight through for so many of the records, Great. So I saw something recently in press about Stone Blue and how it's such a great unsung record. I love that record,
that's a great
too.
record.
I got to tell you. And the title track says it like it is. But so, Roger, can you tell me about you starting as a drummer in England? Where were you from? What part of Britain were you from? Were you
Southwest London, Hounslow. That's where I grew up. I was born in Hampton Court. I'm not a royal, by the way. But that's where I was born, at the Jewish Memorial Hospital there. Mum said they were the best. So I was born right after the war in 46. So, in fact, my mum told me a story last time we were over in England just before she passed. And she said, she was talking about when I was conceived.
Yeah.
At VE Day in Europe, Victory in Europe Day. And after about a couple of months, Mum said, oh, dear, I'm pregnant again. And Dad said, well, how did that happen? And Mum said, well, how do you think it happened? Apparently there were a party. There were parties all over, the UK at the time. And Mum and Dad had a knee trembler, and I was born. So I was actually conceived at a party. My mum told me this about 6 months before she passed. I love my mum. That's
great, though, that she told you. It's funny how our parents keep on revealing stuff about their history and lives as they get older because they start to reflect more. I
don't want my mother to tell me how she conceived.
Yeah, Scott, it's funny.
I don't need to know.
Well, your mum's still here.
Yeah, but even so,
Well, actually, actually, she met my wife. It was the first time that it was the second time she met Linda. But I think she wanted to let Linda know that she was okay. In fact, she said to me, I really like Linda. I said, so do I, Mum. She grabbed my arm and she said, I really like that Linda. You listen to your mum, right?
Yeah.
I did.
Absolutely. I mean, it sometimes makes a big difference. And a lot of times they're right. I mean, I got to say. At least, that's true. My mom's 91 now, and she's still rocking and rolling. My dad passed in 2008, but she'll still tell me things like, Mom, I never told me that before. It's not necessarily how I was conceived, but I mean, regardless, it's still interesting to me, and I love discovering new things, which I think is great. Roger, Scott, tell me how you got involved and met Roger and got involved in the current version of Foghat.
Be honest.
Well, hold on. Why would I do that now?
Where in the South are you from?
Tennessee, Nashville.
Tennessee. You're from Nashville. Cool. Yeah, I was born in Georgia, Athens. I don't sound like
really?
it, though. Yeah.
Man, you got rid of the accent, didn't you?
Very young. I was raised in Jersey, so there's those things.
There you go.
There's another one over there.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a total Jersey guy, so people are like, you definitely exude the Jersey thing. I'm like, dude, I'm Irish, English, Italian. What do you expect? It's that kind of thing. But I mean, it's I just got to say, I wanted to know because obviously one of the things that was so cool is your phone went off earlier and you had the She's a Rainbow ringtone on there, and I was like, what a great tune, what a great intro.
That's true.
So obviously I knew you liked great music, and I've always been a Foghat fan, so
Me
talk
too.
to me about that.
Roger and I met, 2014 maybe?
Yeah.
started writing songs together almost immediately. Just hit it off, and you know, we clicked. And then I've been hanging around them the entire time, you know, wandering around. Hey, you need anything?
Yes. So I was going to ask you. So did you discover the band when you were young and you first started playing? What was the thing?
Yeah, I mean, I was, you know, I started playing music when I was 19, and I got with Buddy Guy and joined his band. Was with him for about 10 years. So I come from a blues background mostly, and you know, I caught up to the Foghat thing later on. But yeah, you know, I mean, it's great music. You know?
Oh, it certainly is. You know, and I think it was great how a lot of English bands popularized a lot of the great blues stuff.
Yeah,
they had to bring it back to us in the U.S.
Exactly,
which
actually,
was
we are a blues band. Foghat's always been a blues band, except that we turn it up to 10.
Yeah,
which is it should be loud.
Which is one of the great things. Roger, tell me about like when you guys made the decision to leave Savoy Brown and start Foghat. Like, what was the thing? Were you guys just? It was time to do your own thing. What was happening?
Yeah, it was time.
Kim Simmons, right? Was that the guy's name?
Yeah, Kim Simmons.
Yeah.
Kim Simmons and I stayed. He passed last December, unfortunately. In fact, he co-wrote 3 songs with us on our new album. And I always stayed friends with Kim throughout the years. But actually, after we left in 71, formed Foghat, 72, 73, somewhere around there. And I didn't really reconnect with him until about 76. And he was playing at a local university, Stony Brook University in New York. And so me and Lonesome Dave went down to see him because we hadn't seen him in like about 5 years. And they were great. And I said, "You want to come back to my house after the show?" And he did. And I think we stayed up till about 5 o'clock in the morning. I don't remember where he passed out, somewhere. And then the next day he was still sort of laying somewhere in the house. After that, I think he stopped drinking.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we stayed friends after that. And he was an incredible blues guitar player. And as I said, he co-wrote 3 songs on our new album. So, yeah, it was sad when he had to pass, but I guess we all have to do that one day. I'm not ready yet, by the way, if you've got anything to do with it.
Yeah. Roger, I'm glad you're sticking around. It's really good to have you because it's I always wanted to meet you guys, and I think it's great to have you here. So, you know, when things started to happen, it was obvious that the American audiences embraced Foghat right away, really. It felt to me like you had great radio stations in Cleveland like MMS and places that were, you know, but it's no disrespect to the New York stations that I grew up with, but I know that they took a lot more chances in some other markets, and that's why I got into radio. I'm like, these bands need to be played. Why aren't they getting played? So that was my love for radio, but I wanted to always make a difference and turn people on to music and educate about the old and entertain with the new. Do both, right? So tell me about when you realized that things were really starting to happen, because you'd already been in Savoy Brown, done some tours. When did you really feel like that Foghat was really growing here in the States?
Well, after we left Savoy Brown, there was a couple of years we were wandering around out in the desert, as it were. Money was getting very low, but we released our first album. We recorded it in Wales. Dave Edmonds was the producer, and our manager at the time was an American, and he called me up and said, "Hey, I Just Want to Make Love to You" is getting played on the radio, which of course was written by Willie Dixon, first recorded by Muddy Waters. And, you know, we got our grubby little fingers on it and sort of turned it into this sort of rock and roll monster. And one of the cool things about that record was that it was like a hit, like in New York, and then maybe Boston, then maybe Pittsburgh, and then maybe Louisiana. But it was a hit for about a year on the radio, but all at different parts of the country. And I think that's what really, really helped us, because we weren't afraid to work. Still aren't. It's not work, we play.
Yeah.
And we played everywhere and anywhere. Our first tour was about 13 months. We played in people's backyards, bat mitzvahs, bar mitzvahs, anywhere that would have us. They didn't have to pay us.
That's amazing.
A sandwich would do and a glass of wine.
Yeah, that's incredible. And then, you know, things started to grow with Energized and Home of My Hand and all that other stuff. And as I said, I discovered the band with Rock and Roll Outlaws I was probably about 12, and then I just, like every record that came out, I would buy. And so And let's talk about when we got to Fool for the City, which became such a big record for you guys. You guys 8 gold albums. You got a double platinum and a platinum album. That record, it just resonated. People fell in love with. There were 3 singles on it, but the 2, obviously, Slow Ride and Fool for the City. Yeah. Can you tell me the story behind Slow Ride? And then I need to ask you how you feel about the way it's been used in pop culture with so many movies and everything.
Slow Ride, well, initially, original bass player Tony Stevens left the band again, and Nick Jameson joined us, who was a good friend of mine. He was the engineer at Bearsville Records, and he joined us on bass. Rod Price and I owned a house out in Long Island, and we just had the basement soundproofed. You have to do things like that if you're near people. And Nick Jameson came into the band playing bass and everything else in sight. And it came from a jam. It's basically a John Lee Hooker riff starts off with, but it's played like 4/4 instead of a shuffle. And we basically got the whole arrangement down pretty early on. And Dave said, I think I've got some lyrics that will work for that. And that's sort of basically how it happens. We actually recorded it in Sharon, Vermont, on top of a mountain. It was the first time the band took, this is in 1974, 75, that area. It's the first time the band took 3 months off to actually record. The rest of the albums, other than the first one, were all done like piecemeal, 2 weeks here, a week here, a week there. We were a working band.
Yeah, you were on the road. You were constantly
on the road,
playing.
Right. And it was a great record, I think, because one of the reasons it did so well is because we had time to work on it. We were also working, as far as I'm concerned, with a resident genius in Nick Jameson. And the band was, we've been playing together for like 5 years, 24 hours a day almost, living out of each other's whatever. And it worked. The band was really tight, and everybody was playing well.
It's amazing, and then that great album cover. Not knowing that you lived in Long Island, I love that. The fishing, yeah, it's incredible. You know, it was it captured that whole situation. I mean, how long did you guys literally relocate and live in the States for a long time? Because you're in Long Island. What part of Long Island were you in?
Near Port Jefferson, East Setauket on the North Shore.
Yeah.
I got off the boat. It was, that's where I landed. No, I always wanted to come to the States, even when I was a kid. I grew up listening to American music, Jerry Lee Lewis, Little Richard. Then I discovered Muddy Waters, John Lee Hooker, and all this great music that was coming out. America has given music to the world, and still does, as far as I'm concerned. We start off with the blues, and we did. Without the blues, you would have nothing. Blues, then jazz, bebop, rock and roll, country and western, gospel music. That's what this country has given to the world. It's this wonderful meeting and amalgamation of music. And I think that's one of the things that makes this country great. It's the music that we've given to the world, still do to this day. All the current new musicians, hip-hop, rap, R&B, however you want to call it, still giving music to the world right here. This is the land of music. In fact, I wanted to run away when I was 8 years old. I told my brother I was going to run away on a ship and emigrate to the States. I didn't use that term, but I was going to stow away. That was it.
Yeah.
And about 2 or 3 years later, I was about 9, I packed a bag and said, I'm leaving, Cole. Collins, my brother. He smacked me around the head and said, don't be so stupid.
But it was a place that, like, the band was.
But I got here eventually.
You certainly did, which is great. And you guys were certainly a hardworking and touring band, throughout those years. Tell me, I want to talk about Stone Blue, too, because I love that song. The album's great, too. It's got a Hurt Sweet 2 on it, and Chevrolet and all those things, which are great. But that song is like just this great anthem for what rock and roll gives to you. Like, gets you through everything. Music does. So talk to me about that song.
Actually, that was Dave. Dave wrote all the lyrics, and Rob Price came up with most of the music, and myself, Craig McGregor, the bass player, helped form everything. I remember our manager at the time said, "You're playing it too fast," and I said, F you.
Yeah. So sorry, man.
It's a rock and roll song.
Yeah.
If if you're playing a rock and roll slow song, a good friend of mine once said, his name was Dave, it's a slow rocker. It's not a ballad. It's just a slow rocker.
Yeah,
So
that's great.
Yeah, it is. It's a rock and roll anthem. Was then, is today. Still gets played on the radio. We play it on stage most of our sets, and you know, this new album is our 17th album, so we have a lot of material to pick from.
That's great. Let's talk about the new record too, and then what your first impression when you met Scott? Were you like, this guy gets it? He gets what we're doing, and because
come on, be honest.
He's a warm, sensitive human being.
Yeah.
No,
he means well.
He means well. No, anybody who's played with Buddy Guy and has been tutored by Buddy Guy has to be all right. I've got to meet Buddy Guy a few times, and a couple of times also thanks to Scott. Beautiful man, an absolutely brilliant musician and singer, and an absolute, I don't know, what can you call him? What would you say, Buddy Guy? I mean, he's a national treasure. Obviously.
I was just going to say he's an American treasure.
Yeah.
I was going to say that myself.
And he's one of the coolest people you'll ever meet. He's always willing with a smile. A quick story. We're playing. Scott was at our house on Long Island one time, and Buddy was playing just down the road at a theatre there. And Scott and I went along to see Buddy, and you go up to the dressing room and you stand in line waiting to sort of pay homage to the man. And eventually, Scott and I go in there and sit down, and there's some small talk, and Buddy's got this like huge bottle of 100-year-old cognac, I think, Hennessy. I drink that on occasion, but not as much as I ought to. Anyway, Buddy sees me eyeing it, looking at his bottle, and he says, you want to try some of that? And I said, yeah, thank you. He said, help yourself. So I poured myself a healthy dose of 100-year-old cognac, because I wasn't driving home. I gave the keys to Scott after that. And as we're leaving the room, because there was a line of people who wanted to meet Buddy, Scott turns to me and he says, he never offers that to anybody. And I said, maybe he thought maybe an Englishman might appreciate a fine cognac, which I do.
Yeah.
I don't drink as much as I ought to.
Yeah. That's great. I love that. Scott, you discovered those guys later. What was your go-to, your favorite Foghat songs?
Well, man, growing up, Slow Ride was just part of the soundtrack to your youth. You heard that the whole time you were in school, and just, every, I Just Want to Make Love to You was another one that you heard all the time. And they just, those songs are just, good music doesn't have a shelf life.
It does.
So that's why they're still played on the radio. That's why we still play them live. They screwed up. They got too many good songs. We can't play them all.
Yeah. Which is great. So, let's get back to really quickly working with Dave Edmunds, because at that period of time, he had been, did Love Sculpture thing, and had his great cover of Fats Domino's "I Hear You Knocking," which I love that. That version crunch. It's just this feel to it. It's got that vocal effect that some people can get away with, and he did it great. You know. Yeah. Was it because you guys were? Because I know he's also a lover of like old rock and roll, and it's just that's part of who he is. Was that why it ended up working out, and why you ended up wanting to work with him? Or how did it happen? Because I know you were on Bearsville, which is the Todd Rundgren label as well.
Right. Basically, after Albert Grossman had met us, he came to see us in London. We rented, the band rented like this little room below a pub in northwest London, and Albert Grossman, who's the manager of Bob Dylan, the band, and he was over there with the band, and Todd Rundgren was with him, and he came to see us, and it was just him in this little club. We were playing one lunchtime, just for him.
Yeah. And,
we were a rock and roll band. I mean, as soon as we started playing, we turned up the hi-wats and the Marshalls, and he went visibly backwards. Anyway,
because the way you guys rock, because
we'd only played about 5 or 6 songs, and then he said, "Well, is there anywhere we can get some tea and biscuits?" And I said, "Yeah, there's a hotel across the road. They serve tea and biscuits. We're in England."
I was just going to say, we're in England. Just tea and biscuits.
So we sit there. We're waiting for tea and biscuits to come. The tea and biscuits come. I start pouring some tea. There's the band, our manager, and Albert Grossman sitting there. I still get chills when I say this. Albert Grossman says, well, hey, let's do it.
Yeah.
And
That's
about
great.
a month later, he sent me $10,000. I booked time at Rockfield in Wales, where Dave Edmonds was working. And Dave Edmonds had the night shift, which was midnight to midday. And we had from midday till whenever Dave turned up. And, of course, our paths crossed, and we'd go and listen to Dave's stuff, which he was just mixing. And Dave Edmonds' stuff sounded incredible. Our songs just sounded like, I don't know, songs. They didn't sound, there was no magic. There was no, we weren't producers or engineers, but we could all play. Anyway, our manager asked Dave Edmonds if he would produce our record. And Dave said, well, as soon as I'm finished doing this, yeah. Because I guess he liked the band. He played the guitar and some stuff, played piano and some stuff. And I know, and I've said this a couple of times, but it's the truth, that our first album would have been nowhere near as successful as it was without Dave Edmonds putting his magic powder all over it. It was like he sprinkled this fairy dust everywhere, and it was like, bing. I mean, I Just Want to Make Love to You just sounded great on the radio. So thank you, Dave.
Yeah, they made a lot of great records. See, people don't need to know that all those records he made over the years, like Tracks on Wax and Repeat When Necessary, after, Peter Grant and Jimmy Page signed him over there, and those guys. And then he did the same thing like he did for you guys for the Stray Cats. He did their first record. Right. So it's really interesting how he... he's what a talented guy. So I love
Stray Cats. What a great band! They came from Long Island too.
Yes, they did. Yeah,
they did. Yeah,
it's amazing. Yeah, Slim Jim's a good friend of mine, and he's been here on the show. So he's got great stories.
The Stray Cats. I inducted them into the Long Island Music Hall of Fame. So
yeah,
they weren't there at the time, unfortunately, but they were probably busy rocking around the world. But that was a great honor, and fantastic band. 3-piece band, wow.
Yeah, and they seriously rock. That was the thing.
Yeah, they do.
And when and working with Dave Edmonds, and it's funny how, because they were, at the time, they weren't really aware of the stuff he'd done. I think they knew I Hear You Knocking, because that was Dave's first hit here in the States. On MAM Records, it was a different label. Then eventually, like I said, he got that, and then he was in Rock Pile all those years later,
Yes.
So he got
great band.
Great band as well, Billy Bremner and all those guys. I love all that stuff, So tell me, you've got so much music. How do you break down a set now that you got? That's my question.
Torture. It's horrible.
Oh, go on. You say it because you've had to do it less times than I have.
Well, that's true.
That's true.
No, we we'll get a set together, and then it'll be too long, and they'll say, well, we need to take a song out, and so we'll take this one out, and somebody will go, oh, I like that song. And we'll say,
put it back in.
We'll take this song out. Oh, no, that's my favorite. And between the four of us, to agree on taking anything out of it, I'm amazed that, we take anything out ever.
Yeah.
Well, we haven't, have we?
No.
No.
We just keep adding stuff to it. The show just gets longer.
Beginning of the year when we sort of decided on a set list, which we have an hour and 15 minutes, which is our regular one. I mean, we have a 60-minute one, and if we're on like a 3 or 4 bill show, like a festival, sometimes we only get 50 minutes. So I've got all these different set lists. At the end of the year, we're up to about 148 minutes. No, an hour and 48 minutes now.
Yeah.
He said it's like we keep adding songs. Oh, sorry about that. And then we're just having fun. I just love what I do. I'm so fortunate.
It's the greatest thing in the world, right?
Yeah.
We love, anytime you get to be around music and that's what you're doing for your life, it's the best thing in the world, really. And I'm very grateful. Being from a kid who was a huge, massive music fan,
Right.
to still being doing radio 40 years later, TV 30 years later, it's like, holy, I'm just grateful. I got to ask you, in those early periods of the band, how often did you put out an album? Because there was a period, was it like every 6 or 7 months, or was it once a year eventually?
It was actually sort of once a year, but we would have to, up until the Fall for the City album, the first album, which we actually obviously had a year to work on. But after that, it was piecemeal. We would work for like a week or two in a studio, then we'd go on the road and we'd work somewhere like out here in LA or Chicago, and it wasn't until Fall for the City that we actually took 3 months off and said, we're working. We're going to work on a record and spend some time and try and get it right. But yeah, a record every year, about maybe a year every 9 months, a record every 9 months, something like that. Now it's when we get it done.
Yeah, exactly. But
ready.
it's interesting how you were expected to do that at that time. And one of the things I asked before, but I want to bring up again, Roger, is how did you like the way? I mean, it became songs like "Slow Ride" and "Fool for the City" were used in many, films and TV shows. Is there one particular thing that you remember that you've seen it in? You're like, it's really cool, like something like a Dazed and Confused, or some of the other things. What is there?
Guitar Hero.
Yeah.
We got 6, 7, 8-year-olds saying, "Can you sign my guitar, please?" No, I mean, that was the best. You can't pay for that kind of publicity. In films, hamburger commercials, car commercials, it's great. It's like all of a sudden people get to hear something that they wouldn't normally get. But the real thing was like, getting younger people turned on to our music. That's the best. There was a show we did. It was a benefit for veterans in New Mexico. Remember that?
Yeah.
In the middle of nowhere. Our hotel was 200 miles away. It was in the
That's how close I
Far
am.
out
to
the
you.
We're in the
boondocks,
mountains, in a desert in the mountains. And there was not a lot of people there. But what I remember, there were these 2 kids down the front with their parents.
Mm-hmm.
Were probably 8, 9, 10, somewhere around there. They didn't stop dancing for the whole hour and 15 minutes we were playing. That makes it worthwhile. When you see people like having fun, their grins on their faces, it's like this is what we're supposed to do: entertain and like give people a break from having to go to work every day.
Yeah.
And, we don't go to work. I mean, work for us is traveling.
Yeah.
On trains, planes, and automobiles, but that hour and 15, hour and a half we get each night to play, that's fun.
Yeah.
I shouldn't really say that, otherwise they won't give us any
Not
money.
out
Right?
loud. Yeah, they'll
No,
quit paying
that's
us.
great.
Yeah, they are paying us. Yeah.
And we talk about it's so great that you played over a decade and with Buddy Guy and you're with his band. But I have to ask you, in those periods of traveling to L.A., Chicago, obviously New York because you lived in Long Island for a while, did you get to meet any of those heroes? You've done so many great covers. In Chicago, Chess, all the the legends. Any encounters with any of those guys?
Yeah, of course, Willie Dixon.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah, Willie Dixon. Lonesome Dave said it one time on when he was introducing Willie. We were playing 3 nights at the amphitheater in Chicago. It was 77. We just had our live album released, and
which did great, by the way.
yeah, right, double platinum. And the first night, Willie Dixon's daughter came down to see us, treated her like the princess that she was. Second night, she brought one of her brothers down, Butch, and we treated him like the prince that he was. On the third night, the man himself, Willie Dixon, came down, and it was absolutely fantastic. He also, and after that, Dave introduced him on stage and said those words: "Without Willie Dixon, there would be no rock and roll." He's written so many fantastic songs, Chess records. When I was learning to play drums, I would listen to Chuck Berry, all the stuff that Willie Dixon actually probably produced, and the drummers that were on those records. What's his name now? It's
Fred Below?
Yeah, Sam. Yeah, no, Fred Below.
Yeah,
Freddie Below.
yeah.
Fred Below. In fact, a quick story about Fred Below. One day, Dave and I are off in Chicago. We have a day off, so we were going out to a club on the south side, Mother Blues, I think it was called. So we walk in the front door and, pay our $3. I go off to the bar to the right to get a drink and a glass of wine for Dave. I have a real drink. And I come back and Dave's staring at the stage. I go, "You all right?" He said, "Yeah, do you know that he's playing drums, Roger?" And I look over and I go, "No." He said, "That's Freddie Below." Now, of course, I knew who Freddie Below was. I didn't have any pictures of him. Dave did. Dave was a closet drummer. He loved all the drummers. He knew all the drummers on every record that had ever been made. That was the start of it. I got to meet Muddy Waters, who was absolutely brilliant. Got to play with him, played in his band. John Lee Hooker, Paul Butterfield, Johnny Winter. I got to play with just about all of my heroes or met them as well. That was, and you know what? Without every single one of them was like, no, it's not a question of what you expect. You just hope you're not let down. I wasn't. All these people would like smile at you and grin and like, because this little kid from southwest London, they were my heroes. That was the music I listened to, the music that made me want to be what I am. Oh God!
I'm so great. I'm so glad that you had those incredible encounters with those guys. They certainly deserve that because they are so. Those guys that threw chess were unbelievable.
Yes.
You know,
no rock and roll if it wasn't for that.
Yeah, absolutely. And those chess, it's great when they when I know people are streaming a lot now, but when they put out the chess blues and the chess singles and box of everything, it just started from the beginning and listened to all those incredible recordings. Love all that stuff from Bo Diddley. I mean, you name it. It's absolutely great. But I gotta say, I love the fact that you have come over. You ended up moving here, living here in the place that you always wanted to go, and I'm glad you guys found each other. And you're playing in San Juan Capistrano.
Yeah.
At it's
Coach
called
House.
the Coach House.
Yeah. It's Friday.
Yeah,
17th.
Yes.
Come on down. You won't regret it. Oh, then maybe they will.
Well,
yeah, I don't think they will. I don't think they will at all.
No, they
but
won't.
it's just I got to tell you what a pleasure it is to have you guys come in here. It's and do the show because again, Roger, I never met any of you guys. In the years since, like I said, I've been doing radio 40 years and TV 30, and always been a fan. So it's like when I heard you were going to come in, I was like, I am so psyched for that. Of course. And it's so funny because I didn't realize. I'm going to confess that I usually write everything written down.
I don't have my white collar, and you can't confess. Just hold on a second.
No, it's all right. Yeah. But it's funny because I was like, oh, that's. I go, yeah. I'm canceling the other thing I have because I'm going to be coming. I'm not going to miss coming in and getting to meet you and say hello and just tell you how much I love and appreciate the band. How much joy I've gotten by listening to your music over the years, and it's great. Stuff rocks.
All right.
And it's just, I knew you'd be. I just had this feeling you'd be the kind of guy you are, which is really cool.
He's not bad either.
Scott's great, man.
I'm a good wingman, ain't I?
He is a good wingman. He is a good wingman.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's great, man. Well, guys, I want to say thank you so much for coming by and hanging out. You're welcome to come back to the show anytime you're in town.
Thanks for having us, Matt. And are you going to be able to come on Friday?
Well, I'm getting cataract surgery and glaucoma surgery tomorrow morning. So I'm going to probably not go to any shows. I will make the next time. I'll keep an eye out for when you guys come back around. And
tell me, keep in touch with me and tell me that is, because my right eye's a little funky. And a couple of times I've gone to see, I see the eye doctor once or twice a year. Got a bunch of, I get needles in one of my eyes.
Yeah.
That's a lot of fun.
Yeah, no, I know. Yeah.
But let me know how you get on with that, because number of people that I know that have had it done all say it's great.
Yeah.
And I imagine out here in LA you get some really good doctors, good surgeons.
Yeah.
And you know what's incredible? The fact that we live in a time when things can get fixed.
Yeah. That's true.
I'm a good example of that. I've got hands, knees, shoulders. They glue me back together. They put a little patch in here and a little patch in there.
And you've been playing drums now for like so many years, right? I mean,
60 odd.
Yeah. And I love that you're still doing it and rocking.
Hey, I'm going to roll till I'm old and rock till I drop. I don't feel very well.
But I think it's great. Yeah, I'll let you know how that goes. It's
do that.
It's funny. I was saying, I looked at the pictures on the wall. I'm like, well, if it's good enough for Steven Tyler and RuPaul with this guy, it'll be all right.
Yeah, right.
I think so. You know what I mean? Being a big, obviously, Aerosmith fan as a kid growing up as well. So, but listen, guys, thanks so much for coming down.
It's a pleasure.
And we will have you back. Absolutely. Roger, it was really a pleasure to have you. Scott, great to meet you.
Nice to meet you, man.
Roger Earl and Scott Holt of Foghat, everybody. I'm Matt Pinfield. This is KLOS, new and approved, and I'll be back with you soon. Thanks for watching and listening.